Back at it again. I've just returned from a multi-hour little trip. It wasn't continuous, like, it was only like 40 minutes away, so it really wasn't that much, but, I have so many regrets, like, not bad regrets, but like, the regrets that you have when you've experienced something absolutely wonderful and you wish you could have done more. That kind of, like, if only, like, I had, in this case, it was, if only I had actually done a vlog. Because I was being a little polite. I felt a bit reserved that day because, I'll be honest, I had reservations about the whole trip in itself. But when I finally was to experience the glory that is whatever I'm gonna tell you, I had a chance to pull my phone out and begin a vlog. And my method is quite secretive. It's more subtle. I don't like wave the camera around and everything. That's a bit rude. I had the chance to do that, but ultimately I was like, no. And I think that was one of the greatest regrets in my life, in my career. But I mean, I made that decision off of, a choice, like, not a choice, but like, off of, like, valid reasons, and I don't know. But to neglect capturing something so viscerally, like, awe-inspiring on, like, maybe I'm too invested in this little project, this little vlogging thing. I just feel blissfully melancholic. Anyways, let me tell you about that thing in particular. So me and the fam went to our place of I guess semi enjoyment. That is Longwood Gardens. We just went there. And today is like fucking Saturday. So it's like the day before, like, the weather all goes to shit. Cause literally in like 1 hour or so, we're gonna have like one of the biggest snowstorms ever. Not ever, but like it's gonna be fucking bad, right? They're saying like at least 10 inches, or not at least, but around that range. And for whatever reason, there was this science program being shown in Longwood, and we're like, fuck it, why not? Let's go. Even though it's like fucking cold as balls out there. And so we go there. We just have the time there, and we had left around like we had gotten there around 11, and we'd stayed there until like 3, not 3, but like 2, or maybe even 1:30. I don't know, but stayed there a good few hours. Was thinking, all right, we've seen everything in this science program. What else? And we just look for other things to do outside Longwood Gardens in the immediate vicinity. And Longwood Gardens is like adjacent to, if not, it's adjacent to. I was gonna say inside, but it's not inside. It's adjacent to, I think. This whole area of like that was the site of Brandywine Battle. But we didn't go to the Brandywine battlefield because it sucks ass. I'm being a bit hyperbolic there, but like there isn't really much to do in the battlefield itself. We had gone there once, when I was so enthusiastic about battlefields, but really wasn't anything to see there, and so we haven't really gone again. But this whole region, that included lots of space around the actual preserved portions and so forth. That was all like the battlefield, like historic site, the battlefield occurred across all this area, and that's why they give it historical significance. Pretty standard deal when it came to these battlefield stuff. And my sister was looking for all the stuff to do, and we stumbled across an antique store, an antique mall actually, and it was a fucking proper mall. We just assumed it was like a few stores and all, but no, it was like the full shebang. Like we go in there and it's like its own like little thing. Like that's vague as hell, but it was actually astounding how immense it was, literally. Because I remember this is kind of reminiscent of the, I remember one time we went to the, it's escaping my mind, what is it? The Winterfest, the Philadelphia Winterfest stuff, where they just opened up a bunch of like little shops and stuff in the Love Park in Philadelphia, where they sell all these sorts of trinkets and like little stuff, and they even have food there. So they in these types of things, like each shop has its own designated like little booth where they just put all the stuff they're gonna sell, and then like people come by and buy them. It's all very standard stuff, really. So this antique shop is like almost like that, but an indoor version. Like you have these like wooden frames, and it's all each like little space carved out by these frames is its own like little space full of antique items, like with all these like little things that are very old. And like, although I do like old stuff, like I'm not really something for like for example, the stuff from like the 1950s, that aesthetic, that like lipstick aesthetic, I'm not really into that stuff, but I do appreciate their age and their like historical like significance. So it was like, it's just old stuff, nice. and it's fucking huge. Like, I didn't realize it. Actually, I will not spoil it. But we were like going across this mall. Like, I was beginning to realize, what they actually meant by mall. And it came, there was a whole collection of fountain pens that took up like, display case. Like, half a display case was fully dedicated to fountain pens. It was pretty wild. And finally, we come now to like, let's slow down a bit. We're just exploring, and out of nowhere, like, my sister mentions, oh yeah, they have a lower floor, and we're all like, what? Because like, the directions, like the signs that indicated there was another floor, were so subtle that it was at the end of a hallway that we just brushed past. It was just kind of all like very, it's like Dora the Explorer type vibes. And so after we're done exploring the upper level, we're like, hey, why don't we just go down to the lower level? So we look for the entrance, and we find it, at the end of a hallway. And it's a very subtle sign. It's like, just like plywood about yay width, yay wide, and just says to the lower level, or to lower level. They don't use the there, and we're just like, okay, let's go to the lower level. So we go down the hallway, go right. We didn't even go to the left. There was probably more stuff there, and we go down another hallway, and there's a sign in the middle of the hallway that hangs from the ceiling and points to the left and says, okay, here's the lower level. And we turn the corner where it says to go down to the lower level, and it's just this little alcove, and it's like a little storage space with like very little stuff inside. It was kind of like very Spartan, really. And like, my interest is like through the roof right now, because this whole thing reminds me very much of The Maze, and the book called The Maze, and like all this stuff with the austerity of the signs, the typeface as well. I don't think it was a typeface. It was handwritten, I believe, but it was just this thin handwritten style. They got to save lettering. Save words, save space. So like, instead of to the lower level, it was to lower level. It was all very mysterious and all that. And like, it was just so. It was like this kind of like mysteries waiting to be uncovered. It was all that sort of feeling, and I just reveled in that for the whole experience. And so, back to the topic, we were in this little alcove, and these two double doors are there. Like, it was not a big alcove. It was like about as deep as like my wingspan. So it was pretty thin, and I'm losing my track of thought. Is this it? I guess so. Yeah, so we're in this alcove. The entrance to the lower floors is, very close, and it's in the shape of these double doors, and they're like, it's quite literally a fire exit. I was honestly very mesmerized by like how not ornate it was. It was kind of, it was a fire exit. It was like those thick doors that usually have that like the bar on them that when you press them it makes the alarm sound, that sort of thing. But of course, you know, given that you are supposed to use these doors, they don't put the alarms on there. So yeah, we enter through the doors, and then we come. It was like, it was all sorts of, it was piquing my interest like hell, because there was this brief umbrella rack just full of umbrellas that were for sale, and the walls were lined with paintings and pictures of all kinds in their little frames. And like you turn the corner very quickly and you come to this sort of stairs that would otherwise have totally white walls, but on them were just myriads of pictures on their frames, all for sale. It's the dilemma of an antique mall that just has loads of stuff but nowhere to put. And oh, it was wonderful. So we go down the stairs, and once again at the bottom of the stairs there are these two giant red arrows. Not red arrows, they were green, but they had the thin typeface that carries all sorts of mystery with it, that says like this way to the lower levels, upper levels open, sort of stuff, right? Standard stuff. You turn the corner, like at the end of the stairway at the very bottom there's like this brief collection of, what is it, like all sorts of doodads. I think it was like furniture stuff, not like sofas or anything, but like candle holders or like all sorts of mixed up stuff that was so like intriguing. It was all very intriguing. And so yeah, we come to the doors for the lower level, we open them, and then there's this, I'll never forget that. It was this wide expanse just opened up before us, and it was the same size as the upper level, and it was kind of like a warehouse how big this was, but it was not really, it didn't really have that feel. I'm just describing it as a warehouse because that's how I come to realize in my recollections. But it was kind of communal in a way. It was very like homely almost. You could walk up and down the hallways, and so we go in where you see these shops all around you, and then like, okay, we go right because we got to choose a direction to go, and we come to, just, if you're a geologist, you need to come here, or like to any antique shop that has these sorts of sections, because it was fucking amazing. Like, I remember back in the day, like, I had this vague memory of being very interested in rocks. And like, I remember back when we went to the Smithsonian, there were these like, there's this little basket of rocks that were like the polished pebbles that were like tiger eye and like all sorts of these very, very, very cool rocks. And we had bought some, and they're very lost in this house right now. But it was, if that version of me that had gone to the Smithsonian and like looked at all these rocks, if that version of me had had gone to the antique shop earlier today, he would have had a fucking aneurysm. Right, literally. Because it was everywhere. The rocks were everywhere. There were like whole baskets selling malachite. I remember I took a picture and I showed it to my dad because we were working on malachite research. And there's this, there were loads of geodes. The most geodes I've ever seen in a single space was there. And what else? There were all these, what's that instrument? That thing that looks like a drum. And you have a little rod. It's like a xylophone, except it's sphere shaped, and instead of that tiny plink sound, it makes a boom sound, like boom, boom, boom. It's like you always associate it with beach theme levels and water music, that sort of thing. By some coincidence, we've just assigned it to that. I will never understand that. But they had this whole collection of those instruments. And I even played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star on one of them, because they had the sheet music kind of taped to the stand that held one of them. And beyond that, there was like, what was there? It was so much stuff. It was inundated. Your senses were inundated with rocks. There were so many. It was the usual stuff. Honestly, most of it was very, very commonplace stuff. Like you had those pieces of rock that were very striated and stuff, that were polished into those little pebbles that we had, the kind that we had gotten early in the Smithsonian. Others were the what was it? The little steadies, the little mini obelisks. I don't know why they always carve it like that, but they had loads of them. And another was the what was it? Oh, the spheres. They had loads of spheres as well. And they had loads of tiger eye and all this sort of stuff. It was a geologist's wet dream in there. And me having remembered the time in my life when I was quite interested in these stuff, I was almost delirious with how much it was kind of like frolicking in a field, that sort of stereotypical blissful childhood stuff. And man, it'll haunt me till the day I die that I did not get my first visit to this antique store on video, because it would have been magical. The way we discovered that there was a lower level, and this little eerie journey that we took there. Oh man, it was like stepping into a little piece of heaven almost. And part of that resided in how I could just reminisce and everything, reminisce in my past and what I used to be interested in, and how I've changed so dramatically from then till now. And it kind of made me a bit melancholic towards the end, because this version of you that was so defined by curiosity is kind of dead now, right? He's just, no part of it remains in you. But I've saved the best for last, because beyond the geology section, there was well, first off, the geology section was huge. There were baskets on baskets on baskets of rocks of all different kinds. And it was all, very fabulous. There were the very green ones and the very blue ones, and there's this section dedicated to the very pink rocks. It was kind of like a Barbie's, like, that Barbie aesthetic, that color. It was that color inundated one of the shelves. It was full of it. I know I'm stereotypically like putting pink with Barbie, but like I'm a male, so that's all I know about the color pink. So yeah, we had our time in the geology section, and we come to the stand next to it, and it's not geology anymore, but it's fossils. And like, first things first, I come face to face with this huge thing. Like, I didn't know what it was at all. And the guy selling these comes up to us and says, "Hey, that's an ammonite." And we all just like turn and look at him, because we don't have any clue what these were, so might as well just learn from the experts, I guess. So he comes up to us and says, "Yeah, that's an ammonite, and they used to roam the oceans." Like, what was it like? Not roam the oceans. Could they? I guess they could swim. They had little fins and whatnot. I don't know. Like, let's not delve into the biology of it. But yeah, they had these ammonites, and they were just like huge spirals, right? Just like going, that sort of like, it was like a Archimedean spiral. That's like that sort of shit. And this thing that was in front of me was like this huge one, like multicolored. There were greens and yellows and pinks, and some of the little sections in the spiral were hollowed out. And he comes up to us, this guy, and he says, like, that's an ammonite, and he explains what they are, and he shows us how they like when they lived, how they lived in the ocean, and so forth. And it was, ooh, man, it reminded me back in the times when we would get museum tours of, I don't know, whatever museums we visited, and it was all just mesmerizing seeing someone explain what was obviously such a huge passion to them. And it was just, fantastic. He went on, and he introduced us to all the stuff in his shop. Like, there was stuff there that people would literally like die to have in a museum like the Smithsonian. Literally, I'm not kidding. The stuff that was there, I could not believe that was not in the museum, because they were huge. They were like bigger than this hand. I think they were bigger than both of my hands. They were like 3 different ammonite shells that were so huge, so pristine, and like surprisingly intact. And there were more that were smaller and also intact. And he showed us like how they were cut, how they were harvested, and all, how they were formed initially. Ooh, it was just absolute fucking bliss in there. Oh my god, that will haunt me for the rest of my fucking life. Literally, that will haunt me 100%. Because, oh my goodness, you had to be there. You had to have seen how big they were, how vibrant their colors were. It was almost a shock to see, this is in some obscure place that we just happened to search up, and not in the biggest museum in the world. It should have been in the biggest museum in the world, especially given how he was describing it like he pointed to them and were like, this is like one in a lifetime, or like this given how big it is, this is the only one that will ever exist. And I'm like, part of me is like, why the fuck is it in the musty lower levels of an antique mall in rural Pennsylvania that barely gets any visitors? Like, if I was a bona fide paleontologist or archaeologist or like geologist or whatever, anyone who had a serious interest in rocks, I would literally faint at the sight of such a thing like that, because it was just majestic, it was awesome, it was all sorts of that. It was indescribable how massive it was, and how everything it was, honestly. And he goes on to describe, he was having a 15-minute conversation with my dad over this, and they were conversing about it, and I was in the conversation at various points as well. And oh my goodness, I mean, I wish more people could come to this, genuinely. I very often refrain from doing any sorts of sponsorships, because given how little viewers I have. But listen, oh my goodness, it was spectacular, to the point where I would, if I were any more superstitious, or not superstitious, but believing in the type of I don't know how to describe it without somehow insulting them, but if I were if I believe in out of body experiences, I would say that's an out of body experience, what I had. Oh, and there were dinosaur eggs, dinosaur shit. There was also some, I forget the name already, but I kind of feel ashamed for forgetting so soon. But there was also, I forget, but there were it was like a geode, but its insides were yellow. It started with an S, and I think it was made of calcite. So, search that up how you will. Get the name for me, whatever. Man. And to think I didn't get it on video. Oh my god. Oh, and I didn't even mention that after that whole thing on fossils, there was another thing right beside it that dealt with, what was it? It was another geology thing, but it was sorted by color. So one shelf you had all this red stones, not shelf, but this whole display case was all red stuff, and in the other shelf it was all, not shelf, why do I keep on saying shelf, but bookcase. The entire other bookcase was dedicated to black rocks. There was hematite. There was all this hematite stuff that was honestly really mesmerizing. And there's this, I'm just so beset with anger towards myself, and I've already articulated why, so I don't need to do that again. And it made such an impression on me that on the ride home, me and my parents were just discussing all about, man, what is my passion? Because I saw all these people people who were like, not there wasn't many people, but like this one guy who was like running the station was obviously so experienced in rocks, and he described it with such like awe and wonder, like, this thing you won't get anywhere else. Like maybe he was trying to sell me this stuff, but but some part of me could like empathize with the passion he had for rocks, for fossils, for all this stuff. And he was explaining, he even after we had gone past his little store thing, he came up to us and he showed us this chunk of like silvery black rock, and he just said out of the blue, like, this is a meteor. And he gave it to us to hold. Like, man. And all this time I was beset with like conflicting emotions, because number one, this is fucking cool, but also like, why the fuck isn't this in like a world museum? Why is this stuck here? This needs to be shown to more people. But then at the same time, like, I get to hold this, and if this is in a museum, it's locked behind a display case. I can't hold this shell like I am holding. I can't touch this like beautiful, like this huge ammonite shell that is like twice the size of my face, and I can hold this. I can touch it with my fingers. I can't hold it. That's pretty heavy, but I can touch it. I can feel how they polished it. And there's this, if it's unpolished, I can just feel how coarse it is, feel the texture of this shell. And if it were in a museum, I can't touch it at all. And like all this conflicting emotions, like, should this be in a museum? Should it not? I don't know, man. Like, if it was in a museum, I wouldn't be able to touch it, but like at the same time, I wish more people could see this. And like, it's all this back and forth, and I just can't decide in the end. If I could decide on it, it would be such a simple decision, honestly. But oh man. And my parents were always enunciating about like, like, even though you've got interests here and there, like, you really need to focus on like what's important, right? And like, they're acting as though I don't already know that, like I don't already understand it. But the whole problem was like, I was so conflicted over it. Like, I was emotionally like high on this idea that like you could follow your passions when it came to your career. You can see it on the internet all the time. There are people who always insist that you can follow your passions through your work, through this field of study that you are dedicated to. And like, they were all trying to tell me, that it's not really like how, like, if you find yourself doing something that is important, but you might not have passion for, like, it's much better for you to prioritize the important thing over the stuff you're interested in, purely because it will help more people. And I get that society naturally has it such that one's passions will not overlap often with their interests. Not their interests, but with their like job and their career. And I was just so emotionally high. I got that all. It was like, it's not the problem that I don't understand that. I was just so, what was it like? Just so not conflicted, but like so troubled by that. I was troubled by this truth that I had already realized, that like you can't pursue your interests. You can't always do that. But given my what I'm doing right now, it just felt a bit sad. Like you're doing this, you're stuck in there, you're like limited just to this, and you've got your eyes for all these other subjects, but you're stuck to this. And I feel that this like disconnect between that, my passion and my my hobbies, not my hobbies, but my passion and my work, or my career goals or whatever. This disconnect would be threatening to like make me learn less, threatening to like hamper my drive to learn, something like that. And like maybe if they did align, then I would be getting much better grades, I'd be doing all this, I'd be actually happy with my life. But it wasn't meant to be. Can't happen to all of us. Anyways, what time? Oh my god, 41? I was rambling for 41 straight minutes. No wonder my throat feels so fucked. Okay, I was planning on doing a blog. We should probably still do a blog because we gotta get some progress done. But 41 minutes. Oh, that's wonderful. Once again, a superior time management. Awful. Just awful. Okay. But I got that off my chest. It was wonderful, my time there. I absolutely recommend. It was 8 minutes away from Longwood, and I forget the name. But I expect that you sleuths out there would be able to find it. It's an antique mall. Yes. Alright. I'm gonna do a blog now.